Good evening. I will start the Finance Committee meeting to order on Tuesday, September 22nd at 6:36 p.m. This evening, we do have 7 items on this evening's agenda. They will not be going in any particular order. And we do have counselors in the chamber as well as remotely, so all votes will be by a roll call. So to start off the meeting, I will do attendance, and I will see who is remotely. Councilor Perlman.
Councilor Perlman is present.
Councilor Oram.
Councilor Oram is present.
And then in the chamber, Councilor Dumas.
Councilor Dumas is present.
Councilor Tenera.
Councilor Tenera is present.
And Councilor Irish is present. So for the first item we will take up is order number 20-100-8069. This is a capital improvement transfer. I will read the letter submitted from the mayor. Honorable President Ossing and councilors, I have enclosed a transfer request for your review and approval for $2,500,000 to fund various projects, upgrades, and new equipment. This package comprised of transfers from free cash continues our investment in our infrastructure and assets while keeping in mind the challenges we face due to the outbreak of the COVID-19. I have attached an updated capital improvement plan also for you to review. A large portion of this transfer from free cash will fund vehicles and equipment upgrades at the Department of Public Works, Marlborough Fire. Below you will find a brief description regarding the capital improvement items. $65,250 for Marlborough Fire Department to replace 1/5 of the department's inventory and personal protective equipment. This request is based on a fixed schedule to replace 75 sets of gear over 5 years at 15 sets per year at $4,350 per set. Second item is $65,000 for public facilities to set up camera systems at 2 fire stations. Additional security cameras aid in the safety of employees and visitors. In addition to our annual mills and overlay efforts, we are investing roughly $1,930,810 to fund the milling and overlaying of various streets, furthering our commitment to city streets and infrastructure. $218,000 for the Marlborough Police Department to replace 4 police cruisers and the communications equipment within. This is part of an annual rotating investment to ensure the quality of our municipal and law enforcement vehicles. $220,940 for a new Freightliner and lift, as the bucket truck used to handle tree emergencies is past its useful life. This is a major piece of equipment used during the weather events. Sincerely, Mayor Arthur G. Vigent. Also, I would like to note for the Finance Committee, this evening, we will not be bringing up the capital outlay of the overlay and millwork for various roads for the amount of $1,930,810. So that item we will not be bringing up, but we will go forward with the remaining items. So with that said,
Mr. Chairman, Councilor Oram.
oh, Councilor Oram.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, I'm not for sure what brought about the change to the request on the milling, but I was actually going to suggest we put that on hold until we see next year's budget, based on everything that's happening budgetary-wise in respect to COVID-19, as well as to our economy. So I'm not for sure. Do you know who suggested we remove that? Whoever did, I am in agreement with them.
Yes, I will have the mayor speak on that because I did meet with the mayor briefly. Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Chairman, members, thank you very much for reviewing these things. We sent down a number of requests for tonight, so I appreciate the long meeting you have in front of you. But just to clarify, I mean, that's why when you and I talked, and we've been working with the auditor, we know what our finances are. You get monthly reports from us on where the finances are. So we're well aware of what's going on out there, and so we'll put this request forward, and as I stated to you, the only reason I want to hold off those streets is because we haven't identified the actual streets yet, so we'll be identifying those and moving forward in due time. This year we have a little more leeway with free cash because of the fact that all the COVID's going on, the states allow us some more leeway. So we wanted to utilize some of this money. We're carrying over about $3 million in free cash the next year. But for right now, if we could get these things that are pretty important to the city, then that would be appreciated.
Because I do.
Be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, because I do know that we did touch base. That was one of the questions that came up of various streets and which ones would be targeted to be milled. And I knew that you didn't have the specifics, so that's another reason that I was all for this.
Yeah, but I mean, it'd be irresponsible just to shelf the whole thing and say, we're not gonna do any road projects next year. If you pay attention to where we are with the finances, we're in real good shape. We know where the state is at this point, and it'd be irresponsible for the city to put these on hold for another year.
Does that answer your question, Council Orem?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I missed the last part, and I apologize to both you and the mayor.
I said it would be
I heard the
irresponsible
first
for the
part,
city to
if I
put it
can-
off for another year.
Is that, you said you're putting it off for another year, Mr. Mayor?
Counselor, you gotta come back to the council quarters here.
Mr. Mayor,
I'll get a better
please,
computer, one or the
just asking
other.
a simple question. I apologize about the technology, but again, my question is, was your last statement that you're planning to put it off until the following year? As you heard, I'm concerned that we approve the 1.9 any sooner than the time when we look at the budget as a city council.
I think I've answered that, Counselor.
President
I'm
Austin.
done answering that question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Councilor Orem, the monies are there right now to fund it and have absolutely no impact on next year's budget. The only reason we're putting off or postponing the decision for a meeting or two is so that the mayor can provide the list of streets, because that's what councilors want to know, is what streets are we going to overlay and mill for next year. So our intentions are that gets approved because we want to have work to do next year. If we don't approve this money now, then we don't do any street work next year. So it's important for us to approve the money this calendar year, so next calendar year, our street department has something to do.
Mr. Chairman, through you to the council president.
This ought to be good.
Yes, Council Orem.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I hear some side quotes. I appreciate being a little respectful, please. As it relates to the comment made by our city council president, my question is this. When is the immediate, I understand you're explaining an immediate need to have everything ready for next year. The question is, what is the latest date that we could set up these programs for repaving our streets without causing any issue, as just noted by the council president? That would be my question.
If he wants me to, I'm happy to answer it. If he wants me to
I
answer.
didn't understand it.
So I mean, if the council's comfortable approving the 1.9 million now, which I am, but if the mayor wants to hold off to provide you the list of streets, that's fine. But we want to get it done so we can transfer the money prior to closing the books. End of October, Diane? For the end of October? So basically, we have 4 weeks to make the decision on the $1.9 million. I don't know if that helps or not, Councilor.
Yes, it does. Like the mayor said, though, we can carry it over, correct?
No, you can't carry, well, if we don't approve the money, it's very simple, then we don't do any street work in next year, and I don't think that's what you want. I know constituents that I talk to want us to work on streets. The only reason we're holding this up is because he's been approached by councilors to see what are those lists of streets that can get serviced by $1.9 million. Not necessarily a bad question to ask. That's the only reason, and we're only holding it up for a week or two. We're not holding it up for some next year's budget. That's not what we're doing.
No, and I respect that, Council President. What I was trying to stress is the importance of trying to be as conservative as possible. And I will note, just like you, I was a ward councilor at one point. I respect and truly respect the need for having our infrastructure improved. Just on the conservative side of this whole process, but again, right now, it has been suggested that we hold off a couple weeks, and I'm okay with that, and I'll look into it a little further to, to give you my final view on it. Thank you, though. Thank you for the explanations.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Tenero.
I appreciate Council Orum's concerns, but I don't want to come to next year and have all my residents say, what's going on, why aren't we paving any streets? So, while I do appreciate his concern, I'm okay with the 1.9 million voting on this tonight. Thank you.
Oh, Counselor Dumas.
Excuse my ignorance with this question, but say if we were to have those list of streets, Mr. Mayor, it's not like we could pick different streets, correct? Like, I'm sure we can not approve certain streets, but we can't add streets, I'm assuming, like the budget, correct?
Well, just to clarify, I've been discussing with Mr. Scott the streets that he might be proposing for next year, and we just haven't defined which ones. The problem is that obviously $1.9 million doesn't go too far with street projects, so this is overlay money. Those we can plan a lot quicker, and those we can get a lot more streets done. If you go down to Memory Lane and Forbes and Lodi and some of those streets, they've come out beautiful. But those are just overlay projects. As soon as we get in the infrastructure of digging down and replacing pipes, that's when it's a year-long project, couple of year-long projects, and it costs much more money. We'd be doing one street for the $2 million. So this was to make sure we have some money on the streets next year. I'm hoping that later in the year, depending on how the revenues go for the next 6 months, we can be talking about a full bond package before spring next year to work on the deep reconstruction projects, like we've done on Bolton Street, like we've done on Maple Street, and some of the others in the city. So they're just very costly once we dig down and start replacing pipes. So this 1.9 million is to just do overlays. We've done a lot of the neighborhoods. I think if you go through some of the Helen Drive areas and some of the other areas in the city, we've been fortunate to get a lot of those done. We want to keep these projects going, but the DPW and Mr. Scott have to determine if we go into a street to just do an overlay, are we going to be tearing it up in 2 years to put pipes down? So the ones that we have to do reconstruction on, this will not cover those, because that's going to be a lot more money, and the intent is to just do some overlays on some streets that the infrastructure's okay, they're just having quite a few potholes, so. But I do want to come down and get those streets to all of you, because I know you all have, some areas that you've been looking at, and I have that list, and I've been working with Mr. Scott, although, there's some like Spring Street, really in need of a project up there. But that's gonna take in excess of the $2 million, because that's a complete reconstruction up there. So that wouldn't be included in this, even though we have to get that moving. But this was something, the intent here was, what do we have left in free cash? Let's carry over $3 million to next year and be very conservative about it. Whatever's left over, we're gonna use for a very small capital project request.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Counselor Tenero.
Oh, if there's no other comments or questions, I'd make a motion to approve.
Mr. President, or Mr. Chair, I have a
Counselor Willoughby.
maybe not a question. This is Counselor Roby.
Oh, Council Roby.
Thank you. I'm not on the committee, but I believe that I was the one who had requested the names of the streets. And I know in our packet was a list of things from the capital plan, and under mill and overlay, there's $500,000 with 11 streets listed that would be coming out of free cash. So I guess I was curious when that amount that's in the capital plan is now tripled without any idea of what it's being used for. So I would appreciate it if this is pulled from what's approved tonight, as has already been discussed by the chairman, but I'm not on the committee, so I guess if you approve it, we see what happens. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Councilor Roby. No, as the Chair of Finance, I believe that when I spoke with the mayor, I agreed that I did want to hold off on this. I will defer to President Ossing. I believe that since I had mentioned to hold off on this item, I can just go ahead and do that. I don't need to postpone it.
Well, the council can, I mean, the finance members, if they want to vote to approve it or just, for each one of the 5 items, you just take a vote. Start with the $65,000 for fire department equipment, give it a thumbs up or down, do the roll call vote, go through each one. When you get to the 1.9 million, if the votes are there to postpone it till the mayor provides a list, that's fine. If the votes are there to approve it, that's fine. We're going to approve it. It's just a matter of, do you want to see the list of streets first before you approve the money?
Okay, Mr. President.
That's a preference of the finance committee.
Okay, so, yeah, absolutely.
I just want to clarify, because Councilor Roby's correct, there was a $500,000 number in there for a certain neighborhood, and then an additional $1.3 million for mill and overlays for the fiscal year '21. So the total in the 5-year capital plan was $1.8 million, and we're requesting 1.9. But those were some of the streets. Some of them may be adjusted, but some of that area is going to be included in the list. I'm sure of that. It's just what additional ones at this point. So those will be some, but they won't be all of them. There'll be more in addition to that.
Okay.
And Mr. Chair, I don't want to
Council Roby.
belay this. This is Councilor Roby. The mayor is correct. There is $1.3 million. It says general road work. It also says that money's coming out of Chapter 90. His request is coming out of free cash.
Free cash.
So that's my confusion.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor Roby. All right, then what we'll do is we'll take up the first item, which is the personal protective equipment for the fire department, for $65,250. Any councilors have a question on that first item?
This is Counselor Croman. I had a point of information.
Oh, Council Palmer.
You know, being a new counselor, I'm just curious. So I know we have a plan here that covers multiple years, and that's just like future projections to give an idea to the council, correct? But when we are voting, it is for FY21. Is that correct?
Actually, Councilor, you have to remember that the capital plan, the 5-year capital plan, is a guide. It's not a Bible. So although things will change on there, we try to use this for planning purposes as to what's coming up. It's really the big things, the library, the fire station, and things like that really skew this. So we have to make sure that we're planning properly. So if you look at some of these, obviously some of the things we have in there, we're pushing off this year because we're not actually requesting a bond package. This is kind of a mini package to keep some capital projects going. But this is something as a guide. It's not necessarily hard in stone that this is what we're going to be doing, and it's adjusted as we move forward. Both the finance chair and the council president push me all the time to keep this updated. So it's something that we're, again, it's a guide to move forward with.
Thank you for the clarification. I appreciate that. So I did have a question on the fire department budget. Are we at that point, Chair Irish, or I know that's what you started with?
Yes, Council Palmer.
The chief's here, but if I could quickly, he had put in a request that replace all the turnout gear over a number of years. So this will be really an annual request, but I'll turn it over to the chief to clarify that for him. Chief?
Chief Breen? Oh, good evening, Chief.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, councilors. Yes, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Chief, could you just explain the turnout gear request?
So the mayor is correct. We've had an appropriation to do a catch-up provision, and that's because since my arrival, we determined that we were way behind with respect to outfitting all of our members with the personal protective equipment needed to, complete their mission. So what this money will do is annually, we have approximately 75 members who need to have their gear replaced. And gear by standard has a lifespan of 10 years. Each member requires 2 sets of gear. So if you do the math with me, what we're looking to do is to purchase 15 sets every year. And then over a 5-year period, that would equate to 75 members. So this capital request, will keep us going to make sure that we ensure all of our members have 2 sets of gear within a rolling 10-year window, if that makes sense.
Thank you, Chief. Does that answer your question, Council Parlin?
Thank you, Chief Breen. Thank you, Chair. My question wasn't about the personal protective equipment, but I do appreciate the Chief clarifying the content. I was curious around the citywide communication infrastructure. I know that's not specific to this year, but I was just curious if you could speak to what that is specifically.
Sure. So that's a project that's going to cost, we estimate likely more than $2.5 million. And that involves all of your public safety agencies. And I'll answer as much as I can without sounding too technical. But that would cover infrastructure repair and replacement cost into what we call the radio towers, the listening posts around the city. So in addition, that would also replace all the portable and mobile radios in both police and fire apparatus. It's a pretty significant project, one that's my discussion with the mayor that I believe that would probably dovetail nicely with any type of communication upgrade were we to continue to pursue a public safety facility, a fire station. So that's something that I think we can defer. We're not really ready. And then when we do initiate that work, I see it as occurring. We're going to sequence that into infrastructure and then portable and mobile radios. And we could split that out depending on the appropriation and the vendor.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And it's great to know that that's in development and it'll be really great for the city. And then just another question to clarify for myself. I know there's a line item here for land for new fire station that's under future years. And I know we have an item later on the agenda regarding a possible location. And I was just curious if maybe the mayor or the chief could speak to if that was just previous to the proposed option for a location coming up, or that's just to allocate it for a future need. I was just curious if the mayor could speak to that specifically.
About the other request for the fire department?
So there's a line item under fire department that says land for new fire station. And I know that I didn't know if that allocation came before there was a proposal for a location that was on Lock Drive.
That's on a different request, correct?
Yep.
Correct.
Mr. Chair?
Oh, President Ossing.
Oh, on the capital request, I'm sorry. Again, everything has been changed over the last 6 months because of the issue we're in. There is no location, and we'll talk about it when the request for the purchase of the land comes up. But there has been no identification of a location for a fire station, period.
Okay, well, thank you for that update. I just saw the line item here on the agenda, so wanted to clarify that under the fire department. So thank you.
Mr. Chair, so again, I want to, so the capital package is there for information. I mean, if we want to have a separate meeting on the capital plan, I think that's of value. But before us are the transfers from the free cash for expenditure this year out of free cash. And that's what the Finance Committee should be focused on right now. If you want to have a separate discussion, which would be of value, but I don't think that this is the right time for that, because that's not part of what's before us today.
Thank you.
Thank you, President Austin. I think that's a great point, and thank you for clarifying, since this is my first time going through it. So I would also be in favor of a future conversation around the plan. So please carry on. Thank you.
Thank you, President Austin. With that said, if there's no more questions on this particular item, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman?
Oh,
Mr. Chairman,
Council Orm.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the fire chief, if I can ask a question on the personal protective equipment.
Yes, yes.
Chief, question would be, you did explain it, and the numbers were very informative. At the present time, do all our firefighters have sufficient personal protective equipment?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council Orem, great question. Yes, I want to be crystal clear about that. Yes, all of our personnel have compliant NFPA-approved gear. We are working towards getting everyone at least 2 sets. So we are in the process of still working towards that goal, but everyone has the gear that is required, and we're not lacking support from the city in that respect. So thank you.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Through you to the chief, and that answered my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. With that said, there's no further questions. I will entertain a motion on the personal protective equipment for the fire department for $65,250.
Mr. Chairman, motion to approve. Councilor Orem.
Counselor Orem, thank you. I will second that, and I will do the roll. Counselor Tenera.
Counselor Tenera votes yes.
Counselor Pearlman.
Counselor Pearlman votes yes.
Counselor Dumas.
Counselor Dumas votes yes.
It carries 5-0. Next item is the capital outlays for
And,
cameras at
Mr. Chairman, just so you know, Mr. Chairman, just so you know, I made the motion. I'm also in approval of my motion. So you know.
Thank you, Counselor. Thank you.
Okay.
I appreciate that. Thank you. The next item is cameras at 2 of the fire stations for $65,000. Any questions on that? Counselor Tenera.
Motion to approve.
I will, if there's no further discussions,
So, Mr. Chair.
thank you, Mr. President.
So I just want to help you along as the chair of the finance. So you can second the motion, but then you have to ask for discussion. You can't just go jump right to vote as part of a learning sequence. You can.
Thank you.
That was my fault.
No, that's right. No, but I mean, you can discuss, hey, anybody can make a motion, right? I mean, for a learning opportunity for the councils, you can make a motion. If it's seconded, then the chair would say, any discussion on the motion? Let the discussion play out, and then if there's no discussion, then you can go right then and move right ahead to doing the roll call for the vote, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So there's been a motion for the cameras at the 2 fire stations. I will second that motion. Any further discussion? I will call the roll. Counselor Pearlman.
Counselor Pearlman votes yes.
Counselor Tenera.
Counselor Tenera votes yes.
Counselor Orem.
Councilor Orem votes yes.
Counselor Dumas.
Counselor Dumas votes yes.
And Counselor Irish votes yes. 5-0, that carries. So I'll go to the next item, which is the capital outlays for $218,000 for the police department for cruisers and radios. Councilors have any questions in regards to that item?
Motion to approve.
Councilor Dumas.
Motion to approve the 218,000.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
This is Counselor Pearlman.
Council Perman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't know if the police chief is available, but I would just, similar to Counselor Orem's current question from before, wanted to know what the state of the cruisers and radios were. And I know the mayor mentioned this is, an opportunity to continue replacing the cruisers. And so just wanted to know the current state of where things are right now.
Thank you, Council Perman. Good evening, Chief Georgie.
Hit the green button, chief.
Good evening, everybody. Well, the cruisers right now, we're currently in pretty good shape, but again, this is a plan. We replace cruisers every year. We probably average 3 to 4 cruisers. The 4 cruisers we've asked to be replaced are older cruisers, you know, they're 2017, 2018. They have 100,000+ miles on the cruisers. So once the cruisers reach 100,000 miles, they're out of warranty. So they realistically cost more to keep going than to replace. So that's why we're really on this plan to just replace a couple every year if we can. And the other thing I would add is that over the years, we've tried to keep a couple of extra cruisers on hand in case any go down. So we do have a higher number of cruisers, but at the same time, they do run 24/7. So through all the shifts, if we can get them an off day, like some of the officers, if we can give them a down day, then we do. But if we can't, then we can't. So they're just running often.
Thank you, Chief Georgie.
Thank you as
Mr.
well.
Chairman, sorry, Councilor Perlman.
Oh, no. I was just gonna thank the chief through the chair, and just to clarify as well, is the typical life cycle of a cruiser about 3 years then, given that it reaches over 100,000 miles?
Yes, on average, it's about 3 years. We keep that spreadsheet that I think I've submitted with our request plan. So we try to keep that as updated as we can. That shares the year of the cruiser, how many miles it has on it. So if you look at that, it's about an average of 3 years, yes.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, Chief. Council Landers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick one. It averages out, Chief, about over 54,000 per unit. I didn't know cruisers were that expensive.
Well, that's the other thing that's changed this year is traditionally the cruisers are about 38 to 40,000, and this year they've moved up. The Ford Interceptors, they've come up with a new model. So the 2020 model is new. So a lot of the equipment, the cages, the radios, the consoles that we would normally transfer from one older cruiser to a newer cruiser no longer fit.
Are there any trade-in values for these 4 that you're trading in? The reason I ask that, occasionally I see a state police cruiser, you can tell by the colors that you see them riding around, so.
Right,
They must
right.
be,
So some of the markets you
they
can
must
see.
be beat pretty good too, so.
They are, but we do trade them in. The hard part is when we submit the request, we're not sure what the contractor is gonna give us for the trade-in, so. But
You're not getting any Lincolns this year, just.
No,
just Fords.
we're staying with the Ford, yes.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Counselor. Okay, motion has been made and seconded. I will do a roll call on.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Further discussion?
Counselor Orm.
I'll make it quick. I know we're trying to move it along. The first question was answered. Thank you, Council Landis, for questioning the cost of the cruises. The second question is to the chief, through you, if I may.
Yes.
Chief, I'm just curious, so we're replacing 4 online cruises. How many cruises do we have in our total fleet for the regular day-to-day operations?
I mean, how many are available to us? In total, we have 29 cruisers and 2 motorcycles, but some of those are administrative cruisers, some of those are unmarked cruisers, and I think we have 11 marked cruisers. So
Thank you, Chief. You answered my question. I was curious how many marked cruises we have. I presume these 4 cruises you're requesting are marked cruises?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. That answered my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Thank you, Chief Georgie. Motion has been made and seconded to approve the $218,000 for the police department. I will do a roll call. Counselor Perlman.
Counselor Perlman votes yes.
Counselor Tenera.
Councilor Tenera votes yes.
Counselor Orem.
Councilor Orem votes yes.
Counselor Dumas.
Councilor Dumas votes yes.
And Counselor Irish votes yes. That is approved. I'm going to go down to the $220,940 outlay, capital outlay for the Freightliner with the lift. Anyone, councilors, have any questions in regards to that?
No.
Mr. Chairman?
Counselor Orem.
Mr. Chairman, for purpose of discussion, I'll motion to approve.
Thank you, Council. Motion has been made and seconded to approve. Any further discussion? I will do
Mr.
the...
Chairman,
Yes, Councilor.
just it's another need. I see this as a need, so I'm in support of it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Counselor. Motion was made and seconded to approve the $220,940 for the Freightliner lift. I will do the roll. Counselor Pearlman.
Counselor Pearlman votes yes.
Counselor Tenera.
Counselor Tenera votes yes.
Counselor Oram.
Counselor Oram votes yes.
Counselor Dumas.
Counselor Dumas votes yes.
And Counselor Irish votes yes. That is approved. On the next item is for the $1,930,810 for the overlay and millwork, various millworks. I will entertain a motion to postpone, but I will leave it up to discussion for the Finance Committee.
Motion to
So moved,
postpone.
Mr. Chairman.
Motion has been made to postpone. I will second that. And any further discussion? I will do the roll. Counselor Pearlman.
Counselor Pearlman votes yes.
Counselor Tenera.
Counselor Tenera votes no.
Counselor Oram.
Counselor Oram votes yes.
Counselor Dumas.
Counselor Dumas votes no.
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 And Counselor Irish votes yes. That was three to two. That carries the table.
Chairman,
Oh.
if I might,
Mr. Mayor.
can I just have clarification? Will that be tabled in committee or tabled, referred to the council?
I believe-
If I can-
Oh, thank you, Mr. President.
If I can help, it'd be tabled in finance, so if you provide the letter, Mr.
Thank you.
Mayor, then the finance would take it up at the next available meeting.
Absolutely, Mr. President.
So the next part you would ask, Mr. Chairman, is if the mayor needs any suspensions for these equipment purchases to see if the
Thank you.
finance committee is amenable to that, if you need suspensions, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I had that on my list. Mr. Mayor, do you need any suspensions on any of these items?
No.
Okay.
No. Which one?
No.
Good? You good?
If I can.
Yes, Counselor.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I mean, if the finance committee is amenable, I would suggest making the motion to suspend the rules just to move the purchases along to get the equipment into the city. It's just, all
I
they're doing
agree.
is
I
delaying
agree.
it another 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I will ask the Finance Committee if they're fine with that, to have a suspension on our next meeting.
I would so move that request. Counselor Oram.
Counsel Perman?
That's fine with me as well.
Thank you, and I'm fine with that. So that's what we'll do, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Okay, so, continuing, we will go down to the bottom one, order number 20-100-8091. It's a transfer for $430,000 from Economic Development Fund to MEDC funding, and I will read the letter supplied by the mayor. Honorable President, Ossing, and councilors, please find enclosed for your review and approval a transfer in the amount of $440,000 to fund the purchase by the Marlborough Economic Development Corporation of 481 Elm Street, a 1.3 acre parcel of land and house. This piece of property recently came up for sale, and portion of it has been identified as a part of a potential site of a West Side Fire Station project. Prior to final approval, there will be a hearing for both the public and the city council input. After acquisition and determination of needed lot size, the MEDC will work with the city to sell the existing house and remainder of the lot, and proceeds will be returned to the city. This transfer would move the funds from economic development account into the Marlborough Economic Development Corporation for the purchase of this property. Sincerely, Mayor Arthur G. Vigent. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And first, I'd like to apologize to Councilor Perlman. I thought this is what you were talking about when you, I was having trouble hearing you, and I thought this is what you were talking about when you asked the question about the $2 million. So this came about really as part of the study that we had done. They identified several different sites in the city to add the West Side Fire Station. And this was one of the sites that actually hit the most areas down there when you look at the study. We hadn't moved forward with any of the purchasing of the land. We haven't moved forward with any identification of where the project would go. We wanted to get into the library project and get that moving before we started really moving forward on an additional project. We have the study in place, it's still active, we still need the station on the west side of town, but this was one of the prime sites, this area was one of the prime sites that was identified in the study. About 2 months, 3 months ago, this property came up for sale. And when Tom DePercio and Ted Scott and back then John Galone had mentioned to me that one of the sites would include the parking lot of one of the commercial buildings down there, but the parking lot would not be big enough. We would have to take this parcel in addition and raise the house. I wasn't interested in raising a house, an antique house like that, so they gave me the plan on a sketch, and basically that's where it was left. When it came up for sale, the feeling was we should kind of take a look at it. If this is in fact the final place for the location for the station, I hate to have someone buy that house, put some effort and a lot of money into it, you know, maybe do some landscaping or put a pool in the backyard, and go to them in 2 years and tell them, by the way, we're taking the property by eminent domain to put a fire station down there. In looking at it, the lot size, the minimum lot size in that area is 18,000 square feet. This parcel is about 53,000 square feet. The intent is to purchase the property, and we also approached both the prior owner, the current owner actually, and the people that were interested in buying it, to cut off 18,000 square feet with the house and sell us the balance. Neither of them were interested in doing that. So when the current potential buyer dropped out, we approached the seller and said, all right, if you don't want to work with us on cutting it off and doing it that way, then we'll move forward in buying the property. We have two contingencies in the purchase and sale agreement. One is that it's approval of the city council to get the money so I can actually buy it. The second contingency is as soon as things are approved by the council, I can immediately send the engineers down there to start cutting off the parcel of 18,000 square feet. So it's the intent of cutting off 18,000 square feet, reselling the house immediately, hopefully having it back on the market the day that we purchase it, and retaining the other approximately 35,000 square feet for the possibility of future fire station. Not to solely put on the 35,000 square feet, but that would be needed if in fact that parking lot was the location for the station. Before any definitive location is set, the city council and the public will have input on the location. Because I know that this came about last minute because the property came up on the market. We didn't want a new owner to be facing this a year or two down the road, and we felt this way we could get what we needed out of the parcel, and if we don't put it there, we can either resell the parcel, sell it to the neighbors, put it up for sale by an RFP, or turn it into a park or something. But we're hoping that we can get out of this basically for minimum cost. If we resell the house for, $400, the lot cost us $40,000. All we're doing is putting it on the shelf right now. But that's the intent here. There's been no decision to move forward with that as a location. There's no intent to tear down that house. If we were to put the station down there, it would have to be more than just this parcel, because this would not hold the project. And the last thing I just wanted to bring up is, because of the chutes and ladders that we have to go through in purchasing property for the city, that's why I'm asking to move it over to the MEDC, the transfer, allow them to buy it, and then they'll transfer back any proceeds from the sale of the property. And they'll be transferring back the land itself. So I just wanted to clarify a few things, because there's been a lot of misinformation out there. I know I've talked to several of you to kind of clarify that, but I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, and I will open it up to the Finance Committee first. I wanted to say, when I met with you, thank you for having, the possibility of having definitely the public's input on this, and the city council input. I know that was certainly very important to do. And just a reminder to the council, to the finance, this is this is a discussion on voting on a transfer. Not the location, not the building of a fire station, but the transfer. So with that said, I will open that up to the Finance Committee first, and then to the rest of the councils.
Mr. Chairman,
Council Orm.
motion to approve for discussion purposes.
Councilor Tenier.
I did want to make a few comments.
Councilor Tenier.
Yeah, so anyways, this is in my ward. I got a lot of phone calls on this. People are up in arms about this going in, a potential fire department. So I guess I have to see the plans and see, have more information at this point. But at this point, I'm getting a lot of slack for this, so unfortunately I have to vote no. So thank you.
Councilor Orm did have a motion to approve. Any further discussion? Motion.
Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry.
Chairman.
Motion's been made to approve by Councilor Orm. I will second it. Any further discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. I know this technology is the best it can be. Maybe someday we'll have to raise the hand again if you want us to do that. But again, the reason I motioned to approve is so we could get some discussion on the floor, and I appreciate and always respect a ward councilor's concern. Being a ward councilor for 12 years in Ward 6, I understand Councilor Tenera's concerns and agree with him on those concerns. So my motion to approve was for discussion, as I noted, and I'll give, again, I'll listen to other councilors as well, but I'm very concerned that the ward councilor is getting, a lot of questions without having further details. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Orm. Councilor Landers.
Well, I'll let the committee members speak first. Now, I'd like to say something at the end.
Thank you.
Councilor Perlman, Mr. Chair.
Councilor Perlman.
Thank you, and I want to express my thank you to the mayor as well for clarifying. I know I've also received a lot of calls, and I imagine it might be because of some of the news articles that have begun running, confirming this as a possible location and maybe spewing misinformation about where we are in the process. So I appreciate you kind of outlining why it moved so quickly, because I also was wondering very similarly. And I definitely think that this does warrant, public discussion, which I'm glad that you mentioned as well, and certainly the input of the city council. So I guess I'm curious, like if we were, let's say, to vote in favor of this, and then it came up would it be coming up at the next meeting? I'm just curious how quickly this would move forward, given where we are now. And it seems like this purchase and sale is something that is very time sensitive.
No, for this particular parcel, to purchase this, cut the lot out, and resell the house, we're talking about getting it done at the next meeting. The purchase and sale is for the I think it's for the 9th or 12th of October. We could put that off a week or two, but the discussion isn't, again, it's not, this is the location for the property. If we purchase this and the council does not want to, if that is the final location that's decided after public input and input from the council, and the council doesn't want to move forward, there's nothing we can do with this parcel as far as building a station. We still would need a lot more property next to it. We would need several acres that are next to it to make this viable for a location. So purchasing this is basically, like I said, protecting a piece of land that has potential for either this or something else down the road. But again, I don't want to have a new owner buy this, have everyone decide that that is, after looking at everything, and we went through this for the school, everyone had a lot of ideas, it shouldn't go there, it should go there, and when all was said and done, there wasn't a lot of locations that we could put it with the size that we needed. So if this was decided to purchase this land, council says there's no way we're putting a fire station there, it doesn't go forward anywhere because it's not big enough to do anything with other than put a little park there or resell it after. It's just to protect a potential buyer from buying it and losing the majority of their property a year or two down the road. That's all. This, and again, I can't emphasize that enough, that we're just trying to make sure when the transaction goes through, the people buying the property, they know they're getting 18,000 square feet, and that's the end of it. And I know there's been a couple neighbors that surprisingly no one's called up to the 4th floor, but I know a number of you have received phone calls, so.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Dumas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Having sat on the committee for the fire station with former Councilor Joer, I will support this. This has been a long ordeal of trying to find a location. We went through numerous spots to figure out where this fire station can go. I know it's not in our hands as of yet. That comes from the mayor, and I respect the decision of wherever he decides to put it. It has to go somewhere. No one will be happy with this. Some people will be delighted with this. But this has to have a placeholder, so at least it's being done. I understand the concerns of the ward councilor Tenera. I get that, but Ward 3, as long as I've been a city councilor, has been up in arms about getting a fire station on the west side. So I would love to see this move forward. I know it's taking a risk, but we can always sell the piece of property if it doesn't go through. The market's hot right now. I'm not worried about losing the investment, but if it doesn't come to fruition, we can always sell the piece of property, which is why I support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Dumas. Any further, Councilor Lynn.
Just a quick comment. I think we're in a position that we have to move forward on this. You know, that there isn't a lot of land available in Marlborough. We know that from trying to place other buildings there. So at least if we move forward on it, and I've had a few calls too, but it gives us that option. And I think that's what we need. And then as time goes on, build a library, look at the station. You know, I've talked to a couple of people that it's possible you could build a station there, you know, taking that additional parcel that wouldn't have this adverse effect on the neighbors. I mean, nobody really likes a fire station next to their house, but part of that's commercial property. So I think I call this good planning and looking to the future, that it gives us that option. So I'm not a member of your committee, but if it comes before the full council, I will support this transaction. Thank you,
Thank you,
Mr.
Councilor.
Chairman.
Any further discussion?
Mr.
Chairman,
Thank-
Council.
Council Roby.
Call to you to Council.
Thank you. I am also not a member of this committee. I guess my concern is, because this is only talking about the transfer to purchase the property, if we purchase this and then pull off a back portion of it so it connects with the property on Lock Drive, and we don't put the fire station there, we now have a landlocked piece of property that no one's going to buy because they can't get to it. So I'm not sure how you separate this into two parcels. Doesn't something have to go to the planning board? Would the planning board approve a landlocked parcel? Am I getting ahead of myself?
If I can clarify, Counselor?
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Counselor Roby, actually, this is kind of a rectangle parcel. In the front, we would have frontage on Bigelow Street. It runs along, I thought I had the map in there, but I don't. So there is frontage on Elm Street, I'm sorry, not Bigelow Street, on Elm Street. And this parcel actually would abut a total of 4 different parcels. So we would have access through Elm Street if we needed access, but it's not the intent, other than, Council Tenera says, we're not putting a fire station there, but I want to park there. We'd look at it to put a park there, but it's not the intent to do something else with it. But there are a total of 4 parcels that abut this, and it does have frontage on Elm Street. And I can't tell you offhand how much frontage there is.
Well, yeah, the parcel does have frontage on Elm Street, but my assumption, and maybe it's a wrong one, is you would be taking the back portion of the property, which is what would connect to Lock Drive, and the parking lot that you talked about wanting to connect to. Why would you take a portion of the side of the property so that you also would have?
Carving off this part here.
Right. We are, with the parcel we're looking at taking is kind of a hatchet shape. So there is frontage, it goes along, and it opens up in the back. I don't know if you're looking at a map there, but we'd just be carving out one piece on the front, on the side where the house is. And so we would have like a pork chop parcel there. So there would be frontage that would go alongside the parcel on Lock Drive, the parking lot on Lock Drive, and go around. So it will not be landlocked, but how much frontage? 165. I think there'd be 45 feet of frontage in the front. We would have 45 feet of frontage in the front.
Okay. So maybe some detail on that would be helpful when it gets to the full council for a vote.
Yeah, I can send down a map.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion? Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I would encourage the councilors to look favorably on this. I've spoken to Councilor Tenera. I too have gotten a call from a resident Ward 4, and I explained it real simply. We close Pleasant Street, I'm gonna have neighbors up in arm because the fire station's closing on Pleasant Street. And as I explained to this resident, 20, 30 years from now, if the fire station were to go here, it would have closed there, the residents would then be upset that we're closing a fire station that they've come to love and respect. No one wants anything new in there or different, right? But this is an opportunity. We're not putting the fire station there right now. Can it happen? Potentially. But the opportunity to buy this piece of property right now, Council Perlman identified, showed you in the capital plan, $1.4 million. We're potentially getting this portion of it for probably less than $40,000. So we could potentially be saving on the back end or putting that money towards a more enhanced fire station. So I would encourage the Finance Committee to vote favorably on this, and then the full council to vote favorably. And we do have to move smartly because there is a purchase and sale, so we would be looking for that suspension of the rules at our next meeting. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman?
Councilor Orm.
Mr. Chairman? Thank you. And my reason for the motion to approve was, one, so we could hear the ward councilor, and it was duly noted what he had to say, as well as the other councilors, as well as the mayor. And I believe there's a safety net built into this proposal for us to transfer the money. With that said, I will be in approval.
Thank you, Counselor. Any further discussion?
Councilor Perlman?
Councilor
Mr.
Perlman.
Chair? I just also want to express that I'm in favor of this as well, based on the discussion, and would just ask the chair, if this goes through at our next council meeting, to provide the same, maybe a briefer context, just because I imagine more residents watch the full council meetings than they do the committee meetings, and I'm sure some of this context would be helpful to sort of make sure everyone is well informed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Perlman. No further discussions. I will call the roll, because motion has made and approved. Councilor Dumas.
Counselor Dumas votes yes.
Councilor Orem.
Council Orem votes yes.
Councilor Perlman.
Councilor Perlman votes yes.
Councilor Tenera.
Councilor Tenera votes no.
Councilor Irish votes yes. It carries 4-1. Thank you. And now moving on to,
And, Mr.
oh,
You
Mr.
want to
President.
make sure you suspend the rules or ask
Oh,
for
thank you, Mr.
suspension?
President. Yes, I will ask the committee, I know it was noted by Council Perlman and Orem, to have a suspension on our next city council meeting. Are we okay with that?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, Council Orem, I'm okay with the suspension on this. As requested by Councilor Roby, though, it will be nice to see some type of a plan. Thank you.
Thank you. So yes, Mr. President, we will have a suspension on that one. Thank you. Okay, so the next item is order number 20-100-8093A. I'm sorry, 20-100-8092. And that is for the salary ordinance amendment for the comptroller / treasurer. I'll read the letter from the mayor. Let's see.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. From a frustrated mayor. We've been working at this now for about 9 months, and the council's been great about cooperating and trying a couple different things. We tried the finance director. We made some adjustments to the auditor, and I want to commend Diane Smith's done an unbelievable job. Well, we've haven't had a controller around, so she's been doing double duty. We do have someone in here temporarily 2 days a week, but she's been carrying most of the load herself, so thank you. But in our frustration, we went out and did a salary survey. And what we found is we're in the ballpark. We're at the bottom of the ballpark as far as prices go for a controller. So no one's going to move from one community to another for the same money. We actually went out and posted this position again at the current salary with an asterisk on it that said pending approval from the council. So I didn't want to be presumptuous. I need a controller in place. Our interim controller is said that he cannot continue after October. He teaches finance classes at the Collins Center, and he teaches a lot of the finance classes in the state. So he said, you know, with school starting again, he's going to have to end his term with us in October. He had originally committed to me up through February of this year. So I want to thank Steve Cirillo for putting in all the extra time, but he does have to move on. So I'm making a valiant effort here to increase this salary by, it's about $15,000 on the top end. And we're pretty confident that at this point, in this salary, now we're in the middle to upper level of the people out there. I think if you look at these, the local people, we're still in good shape. there are some communities like Wellesley and Arlington and Brighton and actually Braintree that would be higher than us, but we're not competing with them, and I'm not comparing us to them. But I do hope I can get your support in getting this approved. Like I said, unlike the other two ordinance changes that I'm providing to you tonight, this one's a little different. The salary survey shows that we're at the low end of the ballpark, but we are in the ballpark. This would put us into a little more of the game where hopefully we get someone. And I'll be very honest with you, we just went out the other day to post it. We have 6 resumes that came in, and 4 of them we're already lining up right away for interviews, because it's that important to get this moving forward. I gotta get this position in place. We have to set the tax rate in another 2 months. I think you all know how important that is. We're dealing with COVID reports, and again, the auditor's been dealing with those herself. So it's imperative that we move this forward. I just think it's important, and any help you can give me on moving this as quick as possible would be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will make a quick comment, then open it up to the Finance Committee. I certainly support this. I'm realizing to get, quality employees vetted and to retain those employees is certainly important for the city. I will leave it up to the Finance Committee. One of the issues that I had, not with the position, but on the Roman numeral 2, for the mayor is authorized to waive 2 steps of the salary schedule for this position. I do support this. I do not believe that this should be with this position, but I will leave that up to the Finance Committee. But I do support the put this order. Any questions for the Finance Committee?
Mr. Chairman, Council Oram.
Council Oram.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve the order?
Yes, please.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Council Landers.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to just make a couple quick comments, because I'm not a member of your committee. And not that I want to be accused of giving everybody a pay raise across the city, but it kind of tells me that we have 4 positions on the sheet tonight that we have to adjust the salaries up. I think we had another little situation with the Commissioner of Public Works, all right? So I'm not saying give everybody a raise across the board, but I think sometime in the future, near future, that we ought to look at. I think we're talking about a study that a couple of meetings ago that was gonna come in and look at some part of our human resource department. Is that correct? Does anybody recall that 2 meetings ago? Oh, I guess I dreamt it. But I think somewhere along the line, this is kind of, 4 positions we have to take a look at, because I'm not so sure, and we're a good community. We have a good reputation out there, but I'm not so sure if we are, drawing the people that we want to draw. And these are professional positions. It's not someone that took, Mr. Landers' accounting class in high school. It's someone that's gone out and they've, done pretty good. So I just want to throw that out. I'm not saying we have to do anything tonight, but I think there's a message here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Council Landers. Mr. Mayor.
I just, first of all, I appreciate your comments, Counselor. The council's been fantastic in taking a look at these as we've been sending these down. Just a few years ago, we came down with the salary adjustments for just about all of our department heads to get them in line, and some got substantial raises.
Yeah, I think I recall that.
And since then, things have changed. Some have gotten even more difficult, and the rates have gone up even more. But I've been, rather than send down a full list of 25 positions, I think last time we did, 15, 18 positions. We did quite a few. And like I said, it was just frustrating that every time someone would leave after working here for 20 years, we'd increase the salary by $20,000 to bring someone new in. And that's why I thought that kind of taking a look at the positions we had, and we continue to do that. Tonight, we have 4 that, you know, one was offered another position, and we can talk about those, but this was one I haven't been able to fill in 9 months. I've had 5 people say, that we offered jobs to, 5 have gotten offer letters from the city of Marlborough. One of them had some health issues he found out after we had our interview, so he dropped out. The other 4 didn't take it because of money. Because even if I were to waive all the steps and get them to the top of our step, it was in the ballpark of what they were currently making, and they weren't willing to just move for the same salary. But 4 positions, we made offer letters to, written offer letters, and all 4 rejected over the last 9 months. And they were good candidates.
But we are on the low side then.
We were on the very low side of it. This puts us in, you know, in the middle. So we're in the game at this one. And we're confident that we can fill it with this type of salary.
Okay, which is good, but I think it puts up a flag, Mr. Mayor, I think.
It does. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All right, motion.
Councilor Perlman, Mr. Chair?
Yes, Councilor Perlman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I just want to thank the mayor for, you know, all of his due diligence, and, you know, Diane, the auditor, for all their hard work. I know it's challenging to do all of this work to, you know, find candidates, interview them, make offers, and then have to get that disappointment when there is so many challenges. You know, if they're already employed in another community or having a salary that isn't competitive. And I also echo Councilor Lander's remarks. I think that a proactive study universally of our pay rates as compared to like-sized communities would be helpful, so that in the future, you know, as we're trying to build out some pipelines of leadership within, you know, position knowledge being shared among other staff members, and having some succession planning, which I believe was the grant that Councilor Landers was referring to. It'd be really in the best interest of the city for us to have that information ahead of time. And really be able to track, you know, what is the retention of certain employees, and if they do stay a long time, what is that value, right? What are the benefits of working in the city of Marlborough? Many of which we can make monetary, and also like what are the professional development opportunities or other avenues of support that we can offer our employees. So with that remark, I just wanted to say that I'm also in favor of that, and, you know, working with our new HR director. So I appreciate the mayor bringing this forward, and how much effort was put into trying to make it work before coming to us. And I am interested to know about the waiving of the maximum 2 steps as well. I appreciate Chair Irish for bringing that forward. So I don't know if the mayor can speak directly to that, if that's, you know, I think that was shown up in multiple of the job description changes with the salary. So it's in section 2, that describes that the mayor is authorized to waive a maximum of 2 steps on the salary schedule.
I'm sorry.
I'm not sure what the question is.
I'm sorry, could you just, I'm having trouble hearing. I'm freaking deaf, Counselor.
No, it's okay. I'll repeat it. Councilor Irish brought up earlier that the line item in the salary change that said the mayor is able to waive 2 steps as a maximum. I don't know if you could speak to why that is included here as well.
Well, some coming in, you know, we're starting at 130. And our max before was, I think, around 135, 133, 133. So waiving 1 step would get us to where our max was before. 2 steps would get us up to about 136. Obviously, that wouldn't be done unless I needed to do it. I mean, anyone that's been around for a while knows I'm a little frugal. Just a little. But I do want qualified people in here, and I've realized that it takes, you know, some of these people have been around a long time. They're not going to leave the comfort of where they are right now unless they have an opportunity. This is an opportunity where if I was allowed to waive 2 steps to go from 130 to 136, I have no one in mind. I have no need, I'm not sure if I'm gonna need to do it. But I wanted the opportunity to put it in there. And I could tell you, I've talked to the finance chair, I've talked to the council president about doing this for all non-union positions, and I'll be sending an order down in the next meeting because both of them, although I'm hoping they're supporting this, we're doing it piecemeal as opposed to sending it down and doing it for non-union positions. And again, it will be coming down the next meeting, but again, it has to be advertised and go through the process before we could do that. That's why with this one, I'm asking that I can waive the 2 steps. We can talk about steps with the other positions. I've put this language in the changes I've made for the last few years. This has been consistent in there, and I think I've only used it, I haven't used it after someone started. And if I've used it twice on other positions, I'd be surprised, but I'm guessing. I don't know if you know that one. No? So I don't even think I've used it on the positions we have it on, but it just gives some flexibility in hiring rather than say, this is the number and that's the end of it. Hope that answers the question.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Chair Irish.
Thank you, Council Perman. Motion been made and seconded. Any further discussion? I will call the roll. Councilor Perlman.
Councilor Perlman votes yes.
Councilor Tenera.
Councilor Tenera votes yes.
Councilor Oram.
Councilor Oram votes yes.
Councilor Dumas.
Councilor Dumas votes yes.
And Councilor Irish votes yes. Carries 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you. Next item is order number 20-100-8093A and 100-8093B. The amendment to Chapter 125, Section 6 for the Veterans Director position. Same idea, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, councilors. So these 2 positions, we could take the Veterans Director first, because
Yep.
it's right in front of me, but.
Yep, that'd be perfect, yep. And we did get the definition of the job description as well.
These 2 both will have a survey in there of communities that we checked. The Veterans agent was not included when we did those upgrades in the 15 or so positions back a few years ago. The Veterans agent came to me and you know, he was offered 2 positions. Both positions were higher than our maximum. And I verified that both positions were discussed with him. So I took a look at the salary from other communities, like-sized communities. As Councilor Perlman said, I've been using the same communities for the most part these have been used for almost 10 years now. I had some other communities that I was using for probably the 15 years before that. Some of them included towns, and they just started falling out of the levels for comparison's sake. So these are communities we've been using right along, and that's why I put those in there. I was shocked to see that our highest step for this position wasn't equal to the lowest step in almost every other community. So in taking a look at it, I think it's well overdue. I think Mike does a great job up there, and this is one that I know I'd be increasing if he were to leave and we were gonna go out, you know, to advertise this. But hopefully that answers the question, and we did do our due diligence in trying to find some comparable salaries.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, I think that that department is doing wonderful, very vital to the city. I certainly do support this. Going forward with the finance team, I will, when we are ready, I will entertain a motion so we can approve the salary ordinance as well as the job description as one vote, but I will leave it for discussion for the finance committee, and I will open that up now. Any questions from Councilor Dumas?
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, I guess my question to you is, can you describe the civil defense position a little bit more, I guess? Because like, there's $15,000, that's their salary, but is there requirements to meet once a week, once a month, once a, the civil defense, the director of civil defense?
Oh, no, we're on the,
Just doing the veterans.
we're doing the
Oh.
director of
I thought you said A
veterans.
and B, my apologies,
No,
sorry.
that's all right. That's a whole nother story.
Okay, thank you, sorry.
Any further questions from the finance committee?
No, motion,
I will entertain a motion to approve the salary ordinance as well as the job description for the Veterans Director, and we can do that as one vote.
motion to approve.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the salary ordinance and the job description for the Veterans Director. Any further discussion?
I just want to clarify, Counselor, there is no intent to waive any steps on this. That we'll be starting at step one.
On step one. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Navy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
sorry.
Mr. Mayor, just want to thank you for playing some defense on this one. I've had the opportunity to work with Mike quite a bit since he started, and I commend you for taking that step because he's great, and the city should do what they can to keep him. So thank you very much.
Any further discussion?
Councilor Perlman, Mr. Chair.
Council Perman.
Thank you, Chair Irish. I also want to express how wonderful I think the veteran agent is doing. I've been able to work with him as well as the vice chair of the Veteran Affairs Committee, and it's been really wonderful to see all of his rapport with the veterans and how well he's done. And my question would be, with the salary change, do we still not know whether he would stay with the city of Marlborough, or this is an attempt to keep him and or somebody else in the future?
He's assured me he's not going anywhere. He's very happy here. He's starting to make roots here. I think he's been doing a good job with the Veterans Council and with the council in general. And he just had the fishing derby down there for the veterans last week. It was great to see, I think he ended up with about 15, 18 of the vets down there. And they're talking about an ice fishing tournament this year. So we're excited about that. I'm not excited about going out in the cold again. Haven't done that for a number of years, but I'll go with the auger and dig some holes, so.
Glad
All right, thank you so much. No further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Motion is made and seconded to approve the salary ordinance to Chapter 125, Section 6, and the job description of the Veterans Director. I will call the roll. Councilor Perlman.
Councilor Perlman votes yes.
Councilor Tenera.
Counselor Tenera votes yes.
Councilor Oram.
Councilor Oram votes yes.
Councilor Dumas.
Councilor Dumas votes yes.
And Councilor Irish votes yes. It carries 5-0. Do you need suspension or any of that?
No,
Okay.
Counselor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, moving on to order number 20-100-8094A and 20-100-8094B. This is for the second part of that. This is for the paralegal to amend Chapter 125, Section 6 for salary ordinance and the job description for the paralegal. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Counselor. Again, this is one we took a look at. I think it capped out, after all the steps, it was under $50,000. We started doing comparisons again that I included from other communities. And in discussion with your right-hand man out back, the secretary of all secretaries, she told me this job used to be tied in with the mayor's secretary, payroll-wise. So what I did is I tried to back into that, to bring it back to where it was. The difference being is this will have steps. So the step 7 ties in with the mayor's secretary, which the way it currently is. And if you look at the other communities for comparison, that brings it in line. By the time, you're there for 5 years, you'll be falling right in line, and even looking at the comparisons today, you're pretty much in line with other communities. I do want to clarify that I would ask that the same language is in here about the 2 steps. I would like to, if hopefully this stays in there, it's my intent to waive 1 step for the person we have up there. So it would kick it up to 52, 224, 34. But I think it's well-deserved. She's been given more responsibilities, and I think if you go up there, she does a great job. She really does, so.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do agree, does a wonderful job, and I know a few years back, this had come up that, may have been even Council Landers mentioned that this, looking, at this salary was on the low side. So I certainly do support this. Again, for the Finance Committee, what we can do is for 1 vote, I will entertain a vote after discussion to approve the salary ordinance as well as the job description, but I will open that up to the Finance team for any questions.
Motion to approve.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the salary ordinance for amendment to Chapter 125, Section 6 for the paralegal, as well as the job description for the position of paralegal. Motion has been made and seconded. I will call, any further discussion? I will call.
Councilor Perlman, Mr. Chair?
Council Perlman.
I just had a question regarding the typical years of service that someone in this position has had. So typically, how long has someone stayed in the paralegal role?
Usually a paralegal is a paralegal, so unless they're going to law school during their time as a paralegal, they're staying in that position unless they want to move on to somewhere else. But that kind of is the position. We are fortunate or unfortunate. The last person we had in there actually had passed the bar in 2 states. So she's actually working in a law firm now. So she had different goals. Heather, I think, is very happy up there. She does continue to stay updated on things, so it's not like she's a paralegal and that's the end of it. She's really staying on top of things, and she handles all our claims at this point, all our public records requests, so she's doing a fine job up there. But this is a position where you're kind of capped out unless you're taking a different path, and like I said, Ellen decided to go the law route, and she's working in a law firm now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council Perlman. If there's no further discussions, I will call the roll. Councilor Perlman.
Councilor Perlman votes yes.
Councilor Tenera.
Councilor Tenera votes yes.
Councilor Oram.
Council Oram votes yes.
Councilor Dumas.
So Dumas votes yes.
And Councilor Irish votes yes. It carries 5-0. Do you need a suspension on that one, Mr. Mayor?
No, Counsel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moving on to order number 20-100-8056A and 20-100-8056B. This is the ordinance amendment to Chapter 125, Section 6 for the position of civil defense, as well as the job description for the civil defense position. I will open this up to the mayor.
Thank you, Counselor. This is one of those positions, we have several of them in the city that we had not been able to fill. Assistant Chief Flynn took this position on when he took his new job. He was assigned that by Chief Breen and did a fine job at it. Prior to that, we had Don Cuson, a retired firefighter, did it for many years. One of those positions, you don't really know what he does until you look into it a little bit. I can tell you I was astonished at the money he was bringing into the city through reimbursements, through FEMA. Anytime there was a whiff of an emergency in the city, he would find a way to get some reimbursement for it. Mr. Flynn's done this now in his prior job. He retired about a month ago. Prior to his retirement, the chief said, I think we have one. And Fred came up and talked to me about the possibility of taking this job. I think it was around $11,000. It was in that ballpark. It's an annual stipend. And when we talked, he said, I want to do it, but I want to do it right. He can only earn so much because he is retired. But he had come to me with the numbers. We took a look around, but he's looking, the stipend would be $15,000 a year. And also, in a time of a state of emergency, for the additional hours he works, he would be receiving $60 an hour, of which we will be reimbursed from the federal government during the state of emergency, $75 an hour, 75% of that. Today, with the COVID, we could actually put the balance in the CARE Act. So we could be reimbursed 100% at this time, but that's only because of the situation we're in right now. Usually, we would be reimbursed 75% of his time. The only two things that I threw out to him would be, I wanted to be able to pull that back, even though Massachusetts is gonna stay in a state of emergency for a little longer. We're not sure how long. I can't have someone down there just running up a bill of $60 an hour. So it would be cut off based on the mayor's prerogative, that he would go back to just the $15,000 instead of both. The other thing is, you get the old stipend until this is either approved by the council or not approved by the council. And then, if it is, we'll kick you into the new salary schedule. If it is not, you can decide whether you want to stay at the old stipend or whether you want to continue. So, I'm excited. I think Fred does a great job. He did as an assistant chief through his entire career, and I expect nothing different from him. This position will not have a vehicle. Mr. Cuson's position did have a vehicle. But with this, we will not be providing a vehicle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I know, speaking with you, this is a vital part of the city to have this position. I certainly support this. I know the amazing work that they do in emergency management. I know when I spoke to you earlier in the week, big proponent of them continually working on grant proposals and things like that. I'm sure they will be, but that is part of the position as well, to do any grant writing as well, I would think.
Anything available, he's gonna be applying for, but the big thing is the FEMA reimbursement. I mean, we take in, during a regular winter, a couple $100,000 in FEMA reimbursements. I'm speaking out of turn. I'm leaning over to the auditor. So, I mean, it well pays for itself several times over, and like I said, I never realized how crucial it was until I was upstairs and saw what happened the first year, so. But it's definitely a needed position. It frees up the assistant chief to do some other things. We still have some stipend positions down there that we haven't been able to fill, and we want to take this one off the table.
No, it's a great position to have for the city, and they do amazing work. I will open it up for further discussion to the finance team first. Any questions for the finance team? Councilor Dumas.
Thank you. Sorry about the misspeaking earlier. So I guess I I relate it to having the same as being a city councilor, where we get a stipend, but we actually are held accountable by coming to meetings, and if we don't show up, we won't get reelected. With this position, it's very loosely based upon the job description as part of like an emergency response. So during the year, is there any accountability, I guess, that's being held? Does it report to you? Does it report to Chief Breen? And how is that managed in regards to keeping the employment in that regard? It's just from a management perspective, as well as holding someone accountable for the position. Obviously, we trust whoever you choose to have, but moving forward down the road, especially with a replacement procedure plan or things of that nature.
It's definitely, like you said, a little bit very flexible. It's very flexible. No one kept track of where Don Cuson was all the time, but when there was any type of emergency, he would be there.
Sure.
He's also, Fred Flynn's gonna be bringing back the community group that we used to have that kind of fell apart when Don passed away.
Sure.
It kind of just went by the wayside. We need to bring them back, especially during a time like this where we could call them in. They used to do our flu clinics for us.
Yeah.
They were always involved with the Labor Day parade. The ham operators are still doing it, but the nursing staff and the medical staff, the medical corps that was together, then really haven't been together for a number of years. He wants to activate them again, try to get some new blood in that. So he has some ideas and he wants to move forward with them. And, you know, I can tell you that a year down the line, 2 years down the line, you don't feel it's, you know, carrying its own weight. The easy solution to that is just to cut it right out of the budget. So
Sure.
you have the final say on
Okay.
whether we keep it going or not.
Sure. Well, it's about putting systems in place.
Yep.
You know, it shouldn't be up to the councilors to monitor that on every single role that's within the city. It should be something, a hierarchy, I guess. But again, I trust Mr. Flynn, so I'm not worried about it. It's just setting things up for future.
Yep.
But thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Davis. Any,
Mr. Chairman, Council Oram.
Councilor Orm, yes.
This is a definite position that is needed. And I'm glad the mayor brought up the Medical Reserve Corps, which is not just in Marlborough, but many places in need of volunteers, especially now as we're dealing with COVID. I'm glad to hear that Fred's going to be, and I've known Fred for years. I worked with him years ago at Marlborough Hospital. He's a good person, perfect person for this position. He's had medical background himself. But with the COVID-19 future mass inoculation clinics, we're going to need a solid group of medical people as well as non-medical to help us with vaccination. So I was glad the mayor added that to it. Don Cuson, I saw him many times in my travels in my profession. I expect I'll see Fred quite a bit too. Again, a well-needed position. I'm 100% in support of the stipend, as well as the mayor noted, when we have emergencies such as, I remember the freezing rain situation. Worcester was worse off than us, but opening shelters, Don Cuson was always there as well. So it's a needed position for the size of this city, and I'm glad to see it being reviewed, and I will support it tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Orm. Any further, Councilor Landers?
Mr. Chairman, I will be fast. Just briefly, I think in Chief Flynn, you have another Donnie Cuson. I happen to work with Donnie very closely, both as a school administrator and then when I was on the city council, as part of that emergency management group. My role as a school administrator, when we had a bad fire or an oil leak or something like that, we had opened up the schools at 3 a.m. and I'd supply school buses in the cafeteria for any families that were displaced. But that's the role that Donnie had, and that's the role Fred will have. And then ice storms and that type of stuff. And I can remember working with Cuson on reports, you know, feeding, because we fed people and all that kind of stuff. It's a very important position, and as I mentioned earlier, I can see Fred almost just like Don. It's in them. You know, it's that firefighter instinct that when something's going on. The only thing I'd question, Mr. Mayor, I'd give him a vehicle. I think the fire department, I see extra pickup trucks around, I see extra SUVs around. I think, I don't know if say he has to bring it home, but I imagine he could report to the station and get one, but just Donnie picking me up sometime at 3 AM or 2 AM, I think a position like that should have a.
Like Council Irish said, if he gets a grand fart, we'll buy one.
Yeah, but that's all I have to say, but I certainly, when this comes on the floor, I'd support it 100%.
Thank you, Council Landers.
Motion to it.
Okay, before you make that
Okay,
motion,
go ahead.
Council, if any further discussion, I will entertain a motion, and that motion would be to approve the salary ordinance, to amend Chapter 125, Section 6 for civil defense, as well as to make a motion to approve the job description for the Director of Civil Defense. Councilor Tenera.
So moved.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the salary ordinance amendment as well as the job description for the position of Director of Civil Defense. I will call the roll. Councilor Pearlman.
Counselor Pearlman votes yes.
Councilor Tenera.
Council Tenera votes yes.
Councilor Oram.
Council Oram votes yes.
Councilor Dumas.
Councilor Dumas votes yes.
And Councilor Irish votes yes. It carries 5-0. Do you need a suspension on that, Mr. Mayor?
As soon as we get it, Fred gets his new salary ordinance, but, so I told him, you know, we're shooting for October 1st, but that's up to the council. If you do it, that's great.
What's that, Mr. Mayor?
If you do suspend the rules, that's great.
Okay, I will ask the finance.
Support it.
We're fine with
Yes, I
that?
would support a motion, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Mr.
A
President.
suspension, I'm sorry, I would support a suspension.
I support that as well.
Yes.
Yes, so we will go with the suspension on that one,
Yes.
Mr. President.
Mr. Chair, point of order. So I misspoke earlier because I was half listening because I was talking to this.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Dumas?
I was talking to the city auditor. I don't know if we talked about suspending the rules for the comptroller position. And I know time is of the essence with that, so I don't know if we need that or not.
Let me
Because
go
if
back.
we don't do that, that means it won't be till October 19th. And if we are getting applicants now, I don't know if that's needed or discussed.
Thank you, Counselor. That would be the most important one on the list.
For the
probably.
comptroller? Comptroller, Mr. Mayor?
Thank you.
don't say
Thank you, Councilor Dumas,
I didn't
yes.
know if I don't know if we talked about it. I just want to make sure that that's clear.
Thank you,
For
Councilor.
for the record, Mr. Chairman, I support the suspension.
Thank you. So yes, Mr. President, I will have a suspension on that one as well. Thank you, Councilor Dumas. Okay, moving on to number 7. So this is order number 20-100-8095. It's a proposed amendment to the City Code, Chapter 328, regarding the fees for the fire department, as recommended by the mayor and the fire chief Breen. If you would fill us in on that, Mr. Mayor?
Thank you very much, and with this one, I'm gonna turn it right over to the chief. He's the one that went through all these changes. A lot of them were very, very outdated, and with that, chief.
Good evening, Chief.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and councilors. Yes, thank you. So what we're proposing, and we're seeking your support, is to do a proposed fee schedule change. We're looking at changing the fees. I would point out that the last time the fees were addressed by this council was 16 years ago in 2004. So you should have in your packet a schedule of what we are proposing and a series of increases from some of our current fees to our proposed new fees. And I would be happy to answer any questions that you have regarding these proposed new fees.
Thank you, Chief Breen. I just had just 2 questions on this. It looks like for the insurance reports will be 0, as well as the burning permits. Is that correct, Chief?
That is correct, Mr. Chairman. So there are we received some counsel from legal department, and I think our charge of $5 was an error. We're not allowed to do that. The state has some rules on that. And then with respect to the burning permits, you know, it's not a lot of revenue. It's more about tracking where those outside fires are for the month and a half or so that we allow the open burning. So we decided that that was something that we really don't need to. That's currently $10.
Yes.
It's not a huge revenue source. We thought it would be nice to just reduce that to zero.
No, I agree, Chief Breen. I thought that was a great idea to have that in there, so I definitely support having the zero fees for those two items. I will now go to the finance team if they have any questions on any of
Mr.
the.
Chairman, I would motion to approve.
Motion has been made, and I will second it to approve the fees for the fire department. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes.
I think it's fair to all our taxpayers that we do continue to keep up our fee schedule, that we charge user fees for the purpose of whatever a person wishes to have. If it's a special service such as noted in these fees, then they should pay a separate fee. I don't think our taxpayers should be taking the burden for someone else's projects. I'm 100% for user fees. I'm glad the chief updated them, and I'm 100% in support of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Oh, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council, I just wanted to give you a heads up that we've been collecting changes and updates in all the fees throughout the city. When we originally, I know over the time that I was down here, we went through all the fees twice. They were all sent down to us at the same time, and it was kind of overwhelming. So I'm sending it down department by department. The next group you're gonna see is the building department. That one, there's gonna be some work to do in it, because there's a lot of fees in there. But we're gonna start sending them down, and I'm hoping to get them all cleaned up and in place for January 1st, so we can start all the new fees with all the departments by January 1st. But they'll be coming down on a regular basis up until then, so.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion's been made and seconded to approve order number 20-100-8095, proposed amendment to the city code, chapter 328, for the fees for the fire department, as recommended by the mayor and the fire chief. I will call the roll. Councilor Dumas.
Councilor Dumas votes yes.
Councilor Orem.
Council Oram votes yes.
Councilor Tenera.
Councilor Tenera votes yes.
Councilor Pearlman.
Counselor Pearlman votes yes.
And Council Irish votes yes, carries 5-0. Do you need a suspension on that, Mr. Mayor? I know it's a
No.
January date. Okay.
Nope, we're good, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Finance team, for going through this on a Tuesday evening. Thank you so much for all your help. Thank you, Mr. President. I will entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Mr. President.
Motion
think
to adjourn.
Councilor Tenera got ahead of me.
I will call the roll. Councilor Pearlman.
Counselor Pearlman votes yes. Thank you
Councilor
all.
Tenera.
Councilor Tenera votes yes.
Councilor Orem.
Great meeting, Mr. Chairman. Council Oram votes yes.
Councilor Dumas.
Councilor Dumas votes yes.
Council Irish votes yes. It carries. Have a good evening. Thank you for your help.
Thank you, councilors.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.